Walker, Mehl joining us now on BetMGM tonight. Walker, my man, great to have you. Getting excited to talk a little Carolina Panther football. So let me phrase question numero uno as delicately as I can. What the hell was that on Sunday? It feels like the team's on an overall upward trajectory. They had an opportunity at an arrival game, an announcement game, giving themselves first place, sole possession of the NFC South. They go to New Orleans and they lose to the Saints. On one hand, I genuinely think the Saints are a better football team than a lot of people give them credit for, Walker. On the other hand, you can't lose that game when you have an opportunity to grab first place in the division for yourself.
And yet, these are exactly the types of games that they've lost all season long, including the first time that they played the Saints. But you thought that they would have gotten that out of their system going into a game that had real NFC South division title implications on the line. But no, in the fourth quarter, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. It's exactly how J.C. Horn put it after the game. Look, I would say that I have no clue what happened out there on the field with the Panthers playing, but I've already seen it. I just see it every other week, right? The weeks that they don't have painful losses, they have big-time wins, like the victory against the Packers, like the victory at home against the Rams. So in that sense, hopefully we get to see Carolina perform pretty well against Tampa, both in the third to last week of the season and in the final week of the season. But this has described this team really all the way through the year. They had the one stretch where they won 3 games in a row. Since then, it's been back and forth, however you want to describe it, roller coaster, yo-yo, whatever it is that brings you enjoyment. It's one of the hardest teams I've ever had to try to evaluate, predict, and project. Like, nobody knows what this team is going to give you week in and week out. And it was frustrating. You're right. It was really, really frustrating for the city of Charlotte to watch the Panthers squander an opportunity to just go ahead and set themselves up for a chance at winning at the NFC South the first time they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now they're going to have to wait until pretty much the very end of the season, barring some luck going their way.
Walker, Brad Evans here. Tampa's been beatable on defense in myriad areas this season. Entering the week, number 28 in EPA per play D over the last 5 weeks. Zeroing in on the ground game for Carolina, how do you see Dave Canales attacking Vita Vea in this defensive line? What's the split going to be between Rico Dowdle and also Chuba Hubbard? Do you think it's a hot hand situation?
Well, I think so, but this has also been pretty hard to figure out, more so with the Dave Canales and how he's going to attack a defense problem. I don't know how he's going to attack a defense. I do know that they do want to stick to running the football as much as possible. There's been some frustration around here with not letting Bryce Young air it out as much as we'd like. I thought it was the best marriage of concepts of sticking to the run and letting Bryce challenge downfield against the Rams going into the bye, getting set for the Saints. I thought that they would, again, have a nice mix of both, when in reality, it still felt a little conservative, even with the downfield shot to Jalen Coker from Bryce. That was a dime. I still would just like to see nice balance from Dave Canales going forward. I think they're going to run it still quite a bit. And I do think Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard are both going to be involved. What was interesting in the first drive in the Saints game, Chuba Hubbard was outsnapped by Rico Dowdle. I believe Rico had 6 carries to Chuba's 2 on that first drive. After that, it was a 10-6 split. So after that first drive, that's when we really got to get a little closer to not 50-50, but maybe a 60-40 type split between those two. I do think they're both going to be involved. Chuba was a little hurt at the beginning of the year. Felt like he came back early because he saw Rico running off with his job, quite literally. So now that Chuba is healthier, and I think that you have Rico maybe just a little more banged up with natural wear and tear that happens to a running back throughout the season, maybe it's going not only with the hot hand, but the fresh body. And if you can try to alleviate some of that wear and tear on both of these guys as you finish the season, then it makes sense to put them both out there, maybe with Rico getting that 60% of the carry share and then Chuba coming in at 40. But I do think both of these guys are going to be involved quite a bit.
Oh, boy, the RBBC, dreaded phrase there in the fantasy football community, especially with the gridiron gold there on the line. Certainly to say, Walker. Walker, with defensive back, Simon McCollum out for Tampa Bay. Who other than Tetairoa McMillan do you potentially see rising the occasion this week? Is it indeed Jalen Coker? Maybe somebody else?
No, it is Jalen Coker. In fact, one of my issues with Bryce all season long has been when Jalen Coker came back into the lineup, I don't feel like he was targeting Coker as much as he should have. Coker, an undrafted free agent out of Holy Cross last year, was really good. He was the better rookie between he and XL, Xavier Legette, who was the first-round pick for Carolina. And it got to the point at the end of last season where it really wasn't even all that close. Jalen Coker was clearly the better receiver. That is starting to bear true again. Over the last couple of weeks, these last two games have been Jalen Coker's best outing so far in his sophomore campaign. That's the guy. The tight end is a little bit of a tight end by committee. Mitchell Evans and Tommy Tremble are good football players. They're not heavily targeted. JT Sanders, who had a decent amount of production last year, hasn't gotten going this year. So then you look to XL, it's two hit or miss for him. It's really T-Mac, and if T-Mac isn't the number one target in the offense, it's going to be Jalen Coker, and he stepped up in a big way each of the last two games.
Walker, let's talk a little bit about this team at large. A lot of people who don't know ball are blaming the loss to New Orleans on BY. I don't think that is fair. I do think there is a lot of fair criticism. Yeah. You just gave us some. Despite the emergence of Tetairoa McMillan, this team is in the bottom half of the league in yards per game, bottom half of the league in passing yards per game, and they have more points per game than only Cleveland, New Orleans, Tennessee, and Vegas, all teams competing for the number one overall pick. Is this a Bryce Young problem? Is this a Dave Canales problem? Or is this a, hey, Rob Brown, shut up, you idiot, we're in contention for the division and that's all that matters problem?
It's not the third. No, we've all been trying to figure out the problem ourselves around here. So it's Bryce Young and Dave Canales, a mix of both, supporting cast, certainly at the beginning of the year. They've also had a million different offensive line combinations, although really it's quite remarkable how well the offensive line has held up despite having double-digit combinations this year. It's been quite ridiculous. I think you're right about Bryce in this Saints loss, that it really wasn't on him. So I do have a problem with some of the people that have coddled Bryce Young a lot of this season. Reality is he's been hot and cold. There are some games where he looks excellent, and there are some games where he's been bad. San Francisco, I was on with you guys right before that San Francisco matchup, and I thought that they would really deliver prime time for the first time in a while. Didn't happen. Terrible offensive game. I thought some of that was on Bryce. Thought some of it was on Dave for just completely abandoning the run. But then you see the Rams game on fourth down, on money downs. Bryce Young is throwing dimes, and Dave, again, ran, I think, Rico and Chuba, I think, over 30 times, and they really had a nice performance on the ground. So it's a bit of both. In this Saints game, if you're looking to figure out who gets the biggest piece of blame pie, I'd probably give it more so to, one, Jero Avero, I think, did not call a good game defensively, the defensive coordinator down here against the Saints. I mean, they absolutely ripped that defense apart in the fourth quarter. But I do think Dave gets a little conservative. I think he allows the offense to be dictated by what he sees on the opposite the line of scrimmage. And I think sometimes you just kind of have to force the issue. We're going to air it out. We believe our quarterback is accurate enough to complete passes. We believe that we're going to be able to run it down your throat and pick up these first downs. And they didn't do it effectively enough. But ultimately, man, this last game in particular, even if there have been some games where Bryce has not played well, I didn't look at this one and think that Bryce was inaccurate, that he was missing throws. He didn't turn it over against the Saints. I think it was really just kind of a comedy of errors. And the other thing I didn't mention, penalties. I mean, they had over 100 yards against themselves with penalties and some key penalties, man. I mean, 30 yards were the difference. Saints had some flags on them. It's just Carolina played the most undisciplined brand of football that they had all year long.
Yeah, that last penalty, too, on Tyler Shock with the roughing the passer was absolutely a death knell, to say the least. Getting him in field goal range and able to split the uprights in Orleans, seal the victory there against the Panthers. Walker, last one from me. Is there a specific player matchup Canales and this coaching staff are most concerned about trying to contain against Tampa?
Yeah, I think you are starting to get a little worried about those wide receivers, especially with anybody that you're looking to challenge on the inside. So Panthers, they've struggled with linebacker play all year long. I would be worried because Carolina plays so much zone. I'd be worried about some of those crossing routes. And safeties and coverage have been a real issue. I trust J.C. Horn on the outside for the most part. Same thing with Mike Jackson. The safeties, I'm a fan of Merrick close to the line of scrimmage. Trayvon Merrick in coverage has been a little leaky. Same thing with Nick Scott, also running alongside him. And the linebackers in coverage have been terrible. So one thing I'd be really worried about is some of the running backs in the passing game specifically, because Bucky Irving can do it. We know Rashad White can do it. They have a good group of backs down there in Tampa. Tight ends have killed this team all year long. So even with Tampa not having the star type of tight end, maybe you can get in with a few guys in the middle of the field and really attack this team. But it's more so of an area of the field that if Carolina can contain it, then I'll feel decent about their chances of winning. And it's that middle portion. With linebackers, how much can you hold up with Trevin Wallace and Christian Roseboom? And can you keep the running back / tight end production in the passing game down? If you can do that, understanding Mike Evans is going to have his impressive plays and maybe Emeka Egbuka, even though he's cooled off the second half of the season. If you can do that to the tight ends and running backs, then I like their chances.
Walker, you mentioned Ejiro Evero just a minute ago on the defensive side of the football because I agree. I think that was ultimately the problem. Like I said, I think that New Orleans offense kind of took it up a gear when Tyler Shuck took over, but still plenty of mistakes, a lot of sloppy play, a lot of spots where it felt like the middle of the field was just being left open for guys like Chris Olave and Vile to find some room. Is it likely at this point that we have a defensive coordinator shift at the end of the year for Canales' staff? Because if the answer is not yes to that, I don't know what I will say about it, but it will probably be an FCC violation.
It's so crazy because Evero was clearly good in Denver. The numbers say that. Carolina with David Tepper having all the money in the world, decided, okay, there is not a salary cap when it comes to hiring coaches. So I'm going to throw all the money in the world at Evero. I'm going to throw all the money in the world at all the coaches that I want. And Evero, believe it or not, actually, his first year here in Carolina provided some stability alongside the other members of his defensive staff. Dave Canales applauds him for it, keeps him as soon as he's the head coach. And they were historically bad against the run last year. Just an over 5 yards per carry. Just a ridiculously bad season. So if you are looking for improvement, you have seen improvement stopping the run this year under Evero. They were 32nd last year, and they're, I think in DVOA, are they 13th from what I saw? Actually doing some research today, they've actually been more so towards the top half of the league in stopping the run. They just still don't have any pass rush. So the hard thing to evaluate around here is, okay, is it because Evero is doing a bad job of generating it? The blitzes just aren't working, which there was a 0 blitz on that Chris Olave touchdown that tied things up. And I had some questions about J.C. Horn lining so far off of Olave. And I thought that was due to coaching. Okay, we have some issues there. But you can't generate pass rush because it's Derek Brown in the middle, who's an absolute beast. But on the outside, you have second-round rookie Nick Scorton. I like him. Don't know if I should be relying on him. Pat Jones got hurt for the entire year. That was early in the season. You're relying on third-round rookie Princely Umanmielen, who I think shows some flashes, but just a rotational guy. You can't rely on him. Is it the Jimmies and Joes? Is it the scheme? Is it both? Like, so much of this season is wrapped in that question on offense and defense. I think Evero does deserve some level of grace, but, man, when you start to dig into the advanced metrics of what he's done and hasn't done the last 3 years, I think that's resume enough to say, look, it's not entirely your fault, but I think a change of scenery would probably work out for both of us.
Walker Mehl joins us here on BetMGM tonight. You can find him on the Wes Walker Show on WFNZ in Charlotte, also the host of the Locked On Hornets podcast. I could do a whole nother hour on the youth core of the Hornets. Walker, my man, great to talk to you. Next time I head up that way from Greenville, brother, I'm going to call you. We're going to go find some bourbon and talk basketball, big dog.
Oh, my God, that sounds fantastic. Please get up here soon. I appreciate the time, guys.
Done and done. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Walker.
Walker Mehl joining us here on the show. Phenomenal stuff there. Like I said, the biggest thing that jumps off at me, Brad, in 60 seconds, Ejiro Evero's defense falling apart, and the fact that the Panthers had the opportunity to show the league, yes, we are a division contender, and just absolutely crap the bed on Sunday against New Orleans. And that's my own football team I'm saying it about.
Yeah, look, and I think the other big takeaway is saying, the middle of the field's been problematic on defense for them. So Chris Godwin could be that guy who really has an incredible game. So they're going to have to try to find a way to tighten the screws over the middle of the field, or Carolina may lose game number 1 against a familiar foe.